The opening scene shows a dog training institute, owned by Jazz Ramsey, whom everyone calls Jazz. She is the heroine of the story. Before this, she worked as a firefighter, but now she is a dog trainer. Currently, she is training a crime detection dog for the police department. The dog's name is Zeus. The heroine firmly believes that no matter how many distractions there are at a crime scene, a trained dog will never miss anything. In the next scene, the heroine visits a school to meet her friend, who is the principal of the school. Her name is Sarah, and she and the heroine have been friends for 20 years. They both studied at this same school. The principal has invited the heroine to demonstrate the capabilities of a crime detection dog to the students. The principal remarks that although the school building is very old, it remains mostly unchanged, except for renovations done on the 3rd floor last year. Suggesting they hold the demo on the 3rd floor, the principal takes the heroine there. However, the principal gets confused while searching for the correct key to unlock the room. She calls a custodian named Eddie, who knows the building very well, to help locate the key. Eddie opens the room, saying he will first open the windows to let in fresh air, and then he leaves. Afterward, the heroine enters the room, while the principal leaves to bring the students. Preparing for the demo, the heroine hides 2 human bone samples in separate spots in the room, one behind a box and the other inside a drawer. When the students arrive, she starts the demo. The heroine explains to the students that even the most difficult to find clues and evidence at a crime scene can be detected by a trained crime detection dog. She instructs Zeus with the command, "Find," and Zeus successfully locates the bone behind the box. However, as Zeus continues searching for the second bone, he stops near a carpet on the floor, barks, and looks at the heroine. Confused, the heroine lifts the carpet, discovering a wooden frame underneath. Shining a flashlight through it, she is shocked and tells the principal that this is a crime scene, as there is a dead body beneath the flooring. In the next scene, the police and forensic team are at the school. Based on the victim's clothing and old-fashioned glasses, the heroine guesses that it might be Miss Quinn, a teacher who had worked at the school for many years. Both the heroine and the principal had studied under her. The teacher had abruptly resigned the previous year and had not been seen around the school since then. The principal is baffled about how the teacher's body ended up in the school. A detective named Nick, who is the hero of the story and the heroine's ex-boyfriend, arrives to handle the case. He asks the heroine if she has identified the victim. She confirms that it is their teacher, Miss Quinn. The principal mentions that after her resignation, Miss Quinn never returned to the school. The hero decides to review the resignation letter and CCTV footage for further investigation. The principal, upset by the incident, goes to her office. While the heroine and Zeus sit by themselves, the custodian approaches them. The heroine informs him about the discovery of the body on the 3rd floor. When the custodian asks if it is Miss Quinn, the heroine is surprised and asks how he knew. He replies that Miss Quinn was not liked by many people around here. In the following scene, the hero, heroine, and principal are in the office, reviewing documents related to the teacher, including her performance reports and resignation letter. The principal hands them over to the hero. She explains that Miss Quinn did not personally hand in her resignation letter. When the principal returned to school after the summer holidays last year, she found the letter on her desk. The letter was dated June 22, which was the last working day of the previous school year. The hero asks why the teacher suddenly resigned. The principal explains that the teacher was already nearing retirement and had a strict demeanor that was hard for many students and parents to tolerate. The principal had tried to convince her to retire peacefully, but Miss Quinn refused. The teacher did not like the idea of her former student, now the principal, giving her orders. The principal also mentions that 20 years ago, she and the heroine had played a prank on Miss Quinn when they were students, and the teacher never forgot it. When the hero asks what the prank was, the heroine dismisses it as a minor incident, refusing to elaborate. Regarding the case, the hero points out that the body was discovered by the heroine and that the key to the room was in the principal's possession. Since both the heroine and the principal were close friends and the victim was their teacher, the hero initially suspects the principal. He adds that he will consider other angles only if new evidence emerges. Understanding the suspicion, the principal acknowledges that many people had grudges against the teacher. The heroine speculates that if someone committed the murder and hid the body under the floor, the motive must have been personal. The hero agrees to investigate further. After the hero leaves, the heroine expresses her sadness, stating that despite being strict, Miss Quinn was a good teacher. The principal, however, bitterly remarks that Miss Quinn was a good teacher for the school but not for her. The next scene is at the heroine's mother's training institute. While watching the news about the dead body found in the school, the mother sees the hero speaking to reporters. The heroine arrives, and her mother scolds her, asking why she is dealing with dead bodies instead of sticking to being just a dog trainer. The mother doesn't approve of her daughter being in a risky job because the heroine's father, a fire chief, had passed away in an accident during duty. The mother had always discouraged the heroine from becoming a firefighter. She gives the heroine an envelope that was kept in her father's office locker. The envelope is labeled, "For Jazz." The heroine opens it to find a photo of herself with her father. This reminds her of his path, which she wants to follow. In the next scene, the hero arrives at the institute to meet the heroine. She asks him about the case status, and he explains that they'll know when the victim died once the lab reports arrive. He adds that no missing person reports have been filed for any teacher. The heroine wonders how no one noticed a teacher missing for months. The hero reveals that he discovered something the principal had hidden. There was an incident where the teacher was about to be dismissed, and she had plans to file a case against the school. The principal hadn't shared this with the heroine either. The heroine asks about the incident. The hero explains that the teacher had shown special attention to a girl student, coaching her frequently. The student's father had complained about this to the principal, leading to the decision to terminate the teacher. The teacher had been planning to file a case against the school, which could have damaged its reputation and cost the principal her job. From this angle, the hero suspects that the principal might have had a motive to kill the teacher. The heroine adds that the student's father could also be a suspect, and the hero agrees, saying they should speak to him. The heroine decides to join him, as she wants to understand what happened to the teacher. Though many dislike the teacher, the heroine respects her. The scene cuts to a flashback. In the flashback, during a class, the teacher talks about hard work in life. The teenage heroine had said that it didn't matter if she wasn't good at grammar because she wanted to become a fire chief like her father and help people. The teacher praised her and advised her to focus and be determined, which gave the heroine confidence. Back in the present, the hero and heroine meet the student's father, Maynard. He had filed a complaint against the teacher last year. Maynard explains that his daughter Maddie might have dyslexia, which makes reading and learning difficult. The principal had assigned the teacher to coach Maddie, and it helped improve her grades. Since Maynard's wife had left 2 years ago, Maddie had been lonely, and the teacher's extra care had been comforting for her. However, the teacher's constant focus on Maddie led to other students teasing her in class. Maynard had also noticed the teacher visiting their neighborhood, which made him wonder about her obsession with Maddie, so he filed the complaint. The teacher had gifted Maddie a book titled Layla, which Maynard shows to the heroine. She takes note of the name before leaving. She tells the hero that while Maynard had a motive, he didn't have the opportunity, as he wouldn't have known about the third floor of the school or had access to the keys. The heroine decides to speak to the principal to learn more. In the next scene, the heroine visits the school and meets the principal, who is addressing parents and students in the auditorium to assure them there are no problems at the school. Meanwhile, the heroine roams the school, and memories resurface when she sees her old classroom. She remembers how the teacher had a pet hamster in a cage. Someone had opened the cage and let the hamster out. The teacher had been upset, worrying about the hamster struggling in the cold and harsh conditions. When the teacher asked who did it, the heroine and the principal had exchanged guilty glances. Recalling this incident, the heroine goes to the principal's office and notices a set of keys carelessly left on the desk. Just as she wonders about the carelessness, the principal enters and accuses her of suspecting him. The heroine explains that she's just trying to clear him from the suspect list because the hero suspects him due to the hidden details about the teacher planning to file a case. The principal then reveals that he had arranged a meeting with the teacher and her lawyer on her last working day to resolve the issue, but the meeting was cancelled at the last minute. The teacher had resigned and left, so the principal assumed she had decided not to proceed with the case. He hadn't expected to find her dead body on the third floor later. As they speak, they hear a noise outside. When they check, they see a stranger in a cap leaving the school building, walking with a limp. The heroine and the principal call out to him, but he quickly leaves. The custodian, busy mopping the floor, doesn't notice anything, and the heroine is unable to catch the stranger. She asks who he might be, and the principal guesses he could be someone the teacher knew. The heroine says she'll inform the hero once they confirm his identity. The principal then checks the name of the lawyer who had last met the teacher, Dieter Mason, who works at a private law firm. According to the logbook, the lawyer had visited the school on June 22 at 3 p.m. However, despite the planned meeting being cancelled, the lawyer never signed out. The heroine asks about old security camera footage, and the principal explains that they usually store footage for only 3 months. However, due to the sensitive situation, the school's lawyer had suggested keeping a copy of the footage, which the principal still has. They play the footage and see the lawyer and teacher entering at 3 p.m. At 4:45 p.m., the principal and other staff leave, and at 5:45 p.m., the lawyer exits the building alone. The teacher, however, is never seen leaving. The custodian had locked the school, and no one entered until the end of the summer holidays. The heroine concludes that the teacher must have been killed on that day. As the heroine is about to leave, she remembers the bones kept in a drawer for demonstration purposes. The principal gives her the keys to retrieve them. The heroine asks if the prank with the hamster bothers her, but the principal denies it. The scene cuts to another flashback where the teacher's hamster had been taken by the principal and the heroine as a prank. The principal had given it to his cousin. In the present, the heroine retrieves the bones from the drawer but notices someone taking a book from the shelf. She doesn't see his face, but she realizes he has another key to the room. As she leaves the 3rd floor, she encounters Maynard. When she asks why he's there, he explains that Maddie must have left some of her belongings behind, and he was collecting them. The heroine asks if Maddie is upset about the teacher's death, as she was the teacher's favorite student. Maynard replies that he doesn't understand Maddie's thoughts. She rarely talks and spends most of her time on the computer. He hopes their relocation will help Maddie move on. In the next scene, the heroine informs the hero that the key to the 3rd floor room is with someone else. The heroine grows suspicious of the custodian because he roams around the school freely and would have the capability to create duplicate keys. The teacher's family and the media are not pressuring the case, so the hero tells the heroine that the department has ordered him to focus on more critical cases. He explains that clarity about the case can only come after receiving the forensic report, especially to determine how and when the victim died. The heroine gets angry, insisting that the case cannot be set aside so easily. The heroine reminds the hero that their breakup happened because he didn't attend her father's funeral. She accuses him of having changed, while the hero tries to console her, saying he didn't know how to comfort her when her father passed away. In the following scene, the heroine visits her father's grave. From a distance, she notices someone watching her and approaches him, questioning why he is following her. This man turns out to be the stranger who had recently come to the school. He introduces himself as Sam, the teacher's cousin. He explains that he came to the school to find out what happened to her. The heroine tells him that no one has heard anything about the teacher for a year. Sam reveals that it's been years since he spoke to her and that he once sought her help during a difficult time, but she didn't assist him. He also adds that the teacher had no other relatives or close friends and kept a distance from everyone after an accident. Curious, the heroine asks him about the accident and learns the details. In the next scene, the hero meets the heroine and tells her that the forensic lab report hasn't arrived yet, but they've sent photos of the victim's belongings. He shows her the photos, which include a chain and a pair of spectacles that the teacher always wore. Seeing this, the heroine strongly suspects the victim is the teacher, but the hero says they need to wait for the DNA results. The heroine tells the hero about the accident story shared by the cousin. 20 years ago, the teacher's husband and their 14-year-old daughter died in a car accident caused by a drunk driver. The heroine realizes that the teacher never shared this tragedy with anyone. At the school, she also now understands why the teacher was so adamant about continuing to work. Her job provided her with solace. The hero looks up the accident report in the police database. The driver responsible was a young woman named Susan. Though it was confirmed she was driving under the influence, the court considered that the car skidded due to ice on the road. As a result, Susan received a reduced jail sentence. The hero admits he doesn't know what they can do about something that happened 20 years ago, and the heroine also feels uncertain. She grows suspicious when she recalls that the teacher went missing a year ago and stopped paying her house taxes, yet they find her taxes were fully paid off last year. This raises the question of who could have paid them. In the next scene, the heroine is at the institute, recalling the last time she saw the teacher. The teacher had been with a lawyer. The heroine contacts the law firm to ask about the lawyer, but the person in charge says the lawyer resigned last year. When she asks for a way to contact him, they refuse to share any information about former employees and end the call. The heroine then drives to the teacher's address while calling the hero to inform him. The hero advises her not to take any action until he arrives, but the heroine doesn't listen and checks to see who is at the house. The teacher's cousin steps out, visibly shocked to see her. He reveals that the teacher contacted him last year before leaving for her hometown farmhouse and left her cat in his care. That's why he has been staying in the teacher's house for the past year. The heroine asks if it didn't seem strange that she hadn't been heard from for so long, and he responds that he assumed she decided to stay in her hometown. The heroine inquires whether the teacher left behind any personal belongings. The cousin shows her a box of items, where she notices a photograph of a teenage girl. When she asks about it, the cousin explains that the girl is the teacher's daughter, Layla. The heroine realizes this girl looks strikingly similar to Maddie, a student at the school. The heroine recalls that the teacher had written Layla's name in the book she gave Maddie as a gift. Now she understands why the teacher showed so much care for Maddie, because Maddie resembled Layla. In the next scene, while jogging in the woods, someone in a hoodie attacks the heroine. The attacker hits her head with a wooden plank, causing her to faint. When she regains consciousness, she finds a piece of cloth stuck on a tree branch, seemingly torn from the attacker's clothing. Later that night, the heroine is at home when the hero visits her. She explains everything that happened and shows him photos of Maddie and Layla, which shock the hero. The heroine admits she doesn't know who to suspect now. The custodian keeps roaming around the school, the cousin has gained a house in the teacher's absence, and the lawyer resigned soon after meeting the teacher. The hero advises her to focus on her safety first. He tends to her injury and apologizes for missing her father's funeral. They both open up and have a heartfelt conversation. After the hero leaves, the heroine reflects on a flashback memory. When the heroine was a teenager, she and the principal switched the teacher's chair as a prank, and it seems the teacher found out. After hearing a conversation between friends, the teacher informed the heroine's father, claiming that his daughter had made a mistake. Understanding that it was a small mistake, the father gave the heroine advice, explaining the importance of taking responsibility for one's actions and trying to fix them. These words from her father remain etched in the heroine's mind. The next day, the hero and heroine visit the school to meet the principal. Meanwhile, the custodian, noticing Zeus moving toward him, becomes nervous and hurries to lock himself inside his room. When the hero and heroine approach, the custodian opens the door hesitantly. Zeus enters the room and begins sniffing around the dustbin. Upon checking, the hero finds a hoodie shirt inside the bin. It's the same hoodie worn by the stranger who attacked the heroine, and a tear on it matches the fabric found at the crime scene. It becomes evident that the custodian was the attacker. Zeus had identified the culprit correctly. The heroine questions the custodian about the attack. While searching the custodian's room, they discover a large amount of cash and poker chips. The custodian then reveals some truths. He had a gambling habit and occasionally stole money from the school. He hid the stolen money behind a bookshelf in the third-floor room, which was rarely used. He attacked the heroine out of fear that her investigation would expose him. While the hero suspects the custodian might have killed the teacher as well, the custodian denies any involvement in the murder. The hero arrests the custodian and takes him to the police station. The principal, realizing the custodian's theft was motivated by his addiction, comments to the heroine, "Now I understand the reason behind his stealing habits." The heroine, however, doubts that the custodian is the killer. Just then, Maynard arrives. He has asked the principal to arrange this meeting with the heroine. The principal asks if Maddie has arrived, to which Maynard responds that she should be in school. The principal then clarifies that Maddie hasn't come to school today, leaving Maynard shocked. Meanwhile, the hero is at the law firm where the teacher's lawyer used to work, examining the lawyer's resignation letter. Comparing it with the teacher's resignation letter, he notices that both letters have identical phrasing, raising his suspicions. The next scene shows the heroine pondering where Maddie might have gone. Maynard recalls that Maddie had seemed upset about the idea of moving to another town. The heroine suggests that Maddie might have gone to visit relatives or friends for comfort. Maynard remembers the name of an online friend Maddie often chatted with, Layla. The heroine checks Maddie's social media account and finds Lila's profile in her friends list. Observing that Lila's profile has no other friends and uses a puppy photo as the display picture, the heroine suspects it might be a fake account. They speculate about who might be behind the fake profile and why they are trying to trap Maddie. An idea strikes the heroine, and she confidently says she knows where Maddie is. At the same time, the hero discovers a shocking twist. The teacher's lawyer, Dider, is none other than Susan, the woman responsible for the accident that killed the teacher's husband and daughter 20 years ago. The next scene shows the heroine arriving at a house, which turns out to be the farmhouse mentioned by the teacher's cousin. Sneaking inside, she finds Maddie sitting and crying. The one who brought Maddie here is none other than the teacher. The teacher had planned everything, intending to take Maddie away to another country. Believing that Maddie is the reincarnation of her daughter Layla, the teacher had created a fake profile under Lila's name to communicate with Maddie online. Seeing Maddie had given the teacher some solace in her grief. 20 years ago, after serving a brief jail sentence for the accident, Susan had turned her life around by studying law and becoming a lawyer. However, the teacher was unable to recover from the trauma of losing her family. Meeting Maddie gave her a sense of purpose and comfort. When the teacher realized her attachment to Maddie was becoming problematic and might cost her job, she decided to resign. The teacher had been tracking Susan for years, eventually discovering that she had become a lawyer under the alias Dider. Seeking revenge, the teacher lured Susan to the school under the pretense of filing a case. On June 22 at 3 p.m., she murdered Susan on the third floor and disguised the body as her own by placing her glasses, heels, and handbag on it. Then, in Susan's attire, she left the school unnoticed. The idea for this deception was inspired by the prank the heroine and the principal had played on her years ago. The heroine confronts the teacher, who confesses everything. At this point, the hero arrives and points a gun at the teacher, demanding she release Maddie. The teacher says Susan received the punishment she deserved and that she and Layla can now finally be at peace. The hero and heroine work together to subdue the teacher and rescue Maddie. The case is solved. In the climax, the hero and heroine visit the heroine's father's grave and place flowers on it. They reconcile and make peace with each other. The heroine agrees to hand over Zeus to the police department. In return, the hero gifts her another dog to train. The movie ends on this hopeful note.